Now, when you think about what makes professional wrestling special, your first thought might be the action inside the ring. The high-flying moves, the hard-hitting brawls, or the larger-than-life entrances or characters. But there's another side to wrestling that is just as important, and maybe even more important than all I just mentioned, and that's the ability to talk. Mic skills are what turns wrestlers into superstars. A great promo can make you believe in an underdog, despise a villain, or get you so hyped up that you pay money just to see a fight. In WWE history, some superstars became legends, not just because of what they did physically, but because of what they said when that mic was in their hands. And today, I'm going to be looking at 10 of the best mic workers in WWE history. The wrestlers, the managers, and the personalities who could talk you into the building, sell you on a pay-per-view, and create moments that we'll never forget. But before we go on, here are some honorable mentions. Triple H, Mick Foley, Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon, AJ Lee, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Bobby Heenan, and the man who is number 11 on my list, The Miz. Now, Kurt Angle came into WWE with legitimate credibility of being an Olympic gold medalist, but no one could have predicted that this wrestling machine would also become one of the funniest and most entertaining talkers in WWE history. When he debuted in 1999, Kurt linked into the role of an arrogant, squeaky clean heel. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was an American hero, lecturing fans by living by his 3 I's: intensity, integrity, and intelligence. The crowd hated it, and Kurt thrived off that reaction. His promos drift with smugness, but they were always delivered with such conviction that he just couldn't help but laugh and boo at the same time. But Kurt's range went far beyond comedy. He could be goofy, he could be oblivious one moment and remember his celebrations with milk, or his private way with Stone Cold Steve Austin during the Alliance storyline, and when he sang to Vince. But then he could turn into a deadly serious competitor. During his feuds with Brock Lesnar, Shawn Michaels, and Eddie Guerrero, his promos had intensity and fire that matched his in-ring ability. Kurt Angle just wasn't one of the best wrestlers in history. He was one of the most versatile mic workers too. Comedy, drama, intensity, he did it all. Eddie Guerrero had something that very few wrestlers could ever replicate, and that was authenticity. Everything Eddie said and did felt real, and that's what made him such a beloved figure. Eddie could be hilarious when he was lying, cheating, and saying his way out of situations, and his promos as part of Los Guerreros tag team with Chavo showed off his comedic timing. He had a way of making you laugh at his antics while still buying into the fact that he'd do whatever it took to win. But Eddie's greatest promos weren't funny, they were heartfelt. In 2004, leading up to his match with Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, Eddie spoke openly about his personal struggles. He talked about battling addiction, disappointing his family, and how badly he wanted redemption. Those promos really hit fans right in the heart, and they weren't just scripted. They were Eddie Guerrero pouring out his real pain and determination. And when Eddie finally beat Brock Lesnar at No Way Out 2004, fans didn't just celebrate the title win, they celebrated Eddie Guerrero overcoming his demons because he has led them into his own story through his words. And that is the mark of a true mic worker, making the fans feel like they're living your journey with you. Miss you, Eddie. Now, I was tempted to actually remove Jake the Snake from this list and add The Miz, but I realized something, that while most of the wrestlers in the 80s were yelling and swooping into the mic, Jake the Snake did the complete opposite. He spoke softly, spoke calmly, spoke deliberately, and that made him more terrifying than anyone else. Jake understood psychology better than anyone else in wrestling history. His promos weren't just about building up matches, they were all about getting inside your opponent's head. He could talk in metaphors, he could spin little airy parables, and he could deliver his words like a snake calling out his prey. Fans had to lean in and listen because every word carried weight. Some of his most chilling promos came during his feud with the Macho Man Randy Savage in 1991. And after unleashing his snake on Savage, I don't know, that sounds bad, but after unleashing his snake on Savage during an infamous segment, Jake's promos oozed sadistic calmness, as if taunting Savage and Elizabeth was just another day's work. Even years later, the wrestler cites Jake as a masterclass in promo delivery. He proved that you don't need to scream or yell or shout to sound dangerous. Sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one you remember most. Chris Jericho! Chris Jericho had one of the longest and most varied careers in wrestling, and through it all, his greatest weapon has always been his ability to talk. From the moment he debuted in WWE in 1999 and interrupted The Rock, Jericho showed that he was going to be a force to reckon with on the mic. What really makes Jericho stand out is his creativity time and time again. He has taken simple ideas and made them iconic, and none has been as iconic as the list of Jericho, which became one of the most over gimmicks in wrestling just from writing people's names on a clipboard. His catchphrase, you just made the list, turned into a viral sensation, and even calling people stupid idiots became something that fans couldn't stop chanting. But Jericho just wasn't a comedy act. His serious promos were just as strong. His feud with Shawn Michaels in 2008, featured one of the most intense and personal mic work of his career. And later, his rivalry with CM Punk brought out another level of storytelling. Jericho is proof that reinvention is key. Whether he was Y2J, the Atella rock and roller, the best in the world at what he did, or Le Champion, Jericho always found a way to stay fresh, and his mic skills were the glue holding it all together. Now, before there was The Rock and Austin, before John Cena and CM Punk, I don't know if I've spoiled the rest of the list, but okay, there was Roddy Piper, and he set the standard for what a great talker in wrestling could be. Piper's speech was revolutionary. It wasn't just a promo segment, it was a platform for chaos. Piper thrived on stirring trouble, mocking his guests and creating controversy. And a lot of iconic wrestling moments in history all started from Piper's speech segment. I mean, Hogan and Andre, anyone? Piper was also instrumental in the success of the very first WrestleMania. His feud with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T was carried almost entirely through his own mic work, where he made himself the most hated man in the company. Without Piper's promos, WrestleMania might not have become the cultural phenomenon it did. And he should have also won a World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, I mentioned this on the list. But his style was fiery, unpredictable, and unfiltered, and you never knew what Piper was going to say, and that's exactly why you had to tune in. You know, I already mentioned that I've spoiled the list during Piper's part, so I will not blame anyone if anyone gets out of this video right now. But if Piper lit the fire, and CM Punk carried the torch into the modern era, Punk's gift on the mic was authenticity. Even when he was playing a character, his promos felt like they were coming straight from the heart, and that's what made them dangerous, and that's what made them resonate well with fans. And of course, his most famous and career-defining promo is the Pipe Bomb promo of 2011, where he sat cross-legged on the stage, like I am sitting down right now, and Punk broke the fourth wall, airing his grievances with WWE, calling out John Cena, The Rock, Vince McMahon, and even the company itself. The promo blurred the line between reality and storyline, like few others in history, and it turned Punk into the hottest star in the business overnight. And this is what I mean when I say that a very, very good promo, a great promo can turn a superstar into a legend. And Punk's mic skills weren't just limited to one moment. His feuds with John Cena featured incredible back and forth promos, and his war of words with The Rock showed that he could hold his own against one of the best ever. In fact, John Cena and CM Punk were actually better than The Rock. Like, they actually they were better than The Rock, but we're not ready for that conversation yet. That's on the mic. And his rivalry with Paul Heyman was filled with venom and passion, and it made must-watch TV. CM Punk was sharp, witty, and brutally honest. He spoke for the fans who felt unheard, and that's why his words hit so hard, and that's why he's the voice of the voiceless. Now, I know I said that CM Punk and John Cena are better than The Rock, but when it comes to charisma, no one touches The Rock. Dubbed the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, The Rock turned catchphrases into cultural phenomena. He just didn't cut promos, he performed them. He had the timing of a stand-up comedian, the delivery of a movie star, and the energy of a rock star. Fans just didn't listen to his promos, they interacted with them. From, "It doesn't matter what your name is," to, "If you smell," okay, wow, that was bad, became a chant, and every week, fans hung onto his words. His verbal battles with Stone Cold Steve Austin defined the Attitude Era. His duel with Triple H, Chris Jericho, and John Cena gave us some of the most entertaining promos in WWE history. And even when he returned years later, he was still able to light up the crowd with ease. And not to mention his final boss, well, he really saved WrestleMania 40, let's be honest. And The Rock's promos weren't just good for wrestling, they were good for pop culture, and that's why he stands as one of the greatest ever. Now, Stone Cold Steve Austin. If The Rock was the entertainer, Stone Cold Steve Austin was definitely the rebel. Austin's promos were fueled by anger, passion, and defiance, and they all connected with fans like nothing before. It all started at King of the Ring 1996, where he cut his famous Austin 316 promo, and in just a few sentences, he created the most popular catchphrase of the next decade, best-selling t-shirt of the rest of WWE history, and kicked off the rise of Stone Cold as the voice of the Attitude Era. Austin's promos worked because they were simple and real. He didn't dress them up with flowery language. He could tell you exactly what he was going to do, and he did it. His back and forth promos with Vince McMahon became legendary, and embodying the working man's frustration with his boss. Fans lived through Austin because when he said he was going to open a can of whoop ass, he believed him. He wasn't just cutting promos, he was speaking for millions of people who wanted to fight back against authority. Paul Heyman is the greatest wrestling manager in history. Yeah, and he's one of the greatest talkers that the business has ever seen. What makes Heyman stand out is his ability to sell. He can take any client, well, almost any client, it's not perfect, and convince you that they're the most dangerous force in WWE. As the mouthpiece for Brock Lesnar, Heyman created magic. His promos before and after Lesnar ended the Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania were some of the most powerful promos of all time. With just words, he made Lesnar feel like an unstoppable monster, and later, his work with Roman Reigns elevated the tribal chief character to legendary status. He single-handedly saved Roman Reigns' career. Yeah. But Heyman's mic skills go back even further. As a mastermind of ECW in the 90s, Heyman's speeches to the ECW locker room and his interviews set him apart as a revolutionary thinker. And few people in wrestling history are able to command the mic like Paul Heyman. And he doesn't just hype matches, he doesn't just hype moments, he creates legacies. And that's why he's the best. But there's someone better than him. Well, I already spoiled the list before, but at number 1 we have someone, and his name is John Cena. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, no. Okay. John Cena is the most complete mic worker in WWE history, and that's a fact. Cena's my career can be divided into two phases. Early on, as doctor of the ergonomics, word life, he delivered freestyle raps that tore his opponents apart. His wordplay, his humor, and his confidence made him a breakout star. And as face of the company, Cena shifted gears into more traditional promos. He did it he did it better than anyone else. He could cut fiery, passionate speeches that rallied the crowd behind him, and he could also deliver sharp, cutting lines that buried his opponents. His verbal deals with The Rock are legendary, especially when he called out The Rock for writing out his promo notes on his wrist. I still remember that. But Cena's greatest strength was his authenticity. In feuds with CM Punk, Edge, AJ Styles, Cena blurred the line between reality and kayfabe. He spoke directly to the audience in a way that felt honest. And even in recent years, his 2017 promo against Roman Reigns, he basically buried Roman, showed that Cena could still dominate on the mic. Love him or hate him, I love him. But Cena has every tool a great talker needs: humor, intensity, passion, and authenticity. And despite what people might say about his wrestling skills, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, he's a 17-time world heavyweight champion because of his mind skills and his mic skills alone, and this is why he takes the #1 spot.